Okay, so today we're going to look at something that should be familiar to you, that being our sine rule. Sine rules are useful for non-right angled triangles there. I'm going to prove the sine rule now. So we draw in the perpendicular height. Now from right angled triangle trig, I know that h over c would be the sine of b. So h is c sine b. But looking at the other triangle, h would be b sine c. So clearly those two things must be equal, and we get c over sine c is b over sine b. And we can generalise that out to the other side, and we get what you recognise to be the sine rule. A over sine A is b on sine b is equal to c on sine c. Now let's do a typical sort of question here. We have to find h in this case. So h on sine h would be q on sine q. Sub in the details, and it really is now just a substitution question. Rearrange it, and a bit of calculator work, we get 45.8. What if we want to find an angle? Well, the sine rule I can turn upside down. If it's the angle I want to find, I'll make it sine y on y is sine z on z. Now sine y, sub in the information, make sine y the subject. Now find the angle, turns out to be 46 degrees 58. Be careful with the sine rule. Does your answer make sense? Because remember, it might be an obtuse angle. You see, angles in both the first quadrant and the second quadrant, sine is positive, but your calculator doesn't know the difference. It will always assume it's an acute angle. So things to look for. Angle sum of a triangle is 180. So if your angle's too big, then it possibly is an acute angle rather than obtuse. The largest angle will always be opposite the largest side. The smallest angle will also be opposite the smallest side, and so on. Here's a triangle ABC. Now perhaps you didn't know this, but in fact, the sine rule has an additional piece. If you were to draw in the circumcircle, that's the circle that goes around the triangle, then A on sine A, or B on sine B, or C on sine C will actually equal the diameter of that circle, the diameter of the circumcircle. Area of a triangle. If it's not a right angle triangle, again, let's create a formula. Draw in the perpendicular height. We know the area of that triangle would be half base times height. So half AH. But h over b would be the sine of c. So h is b sine c. So subbing in for h, there's our formula. Half AB sine c. So depending on which angle you know, but notice in the formula, it's always two sides and the included angle. Do a quick example over here. All right, I've got two sides and the included angle. So half dm sine f, substitute in, bit of calculation, 25.47 units squared. All right, so as I say, pretty much revisionary, but 6i questions on the sine rule.